We live in a paradoxical world of expanding global influences where international corporations are becoming fewer but larger, whilst at the same time sovereign states in which we live are seemingly impotent to unilaterally solve the problems generated by global issues. This has a direct and often negative impact on our daily lives. As individuals, we are only 1/8 of a second away from communicating with someone on the opposite side of the world. Our sense of being tied to one geographical spot is no longer valid. The impact of mass communication, providing us with the ability to work and communicate in a virtual sense, contrasted with our inability to completely control our daily lives, contributes to our uncertainty about the future. We see this in the current global economic crisis. What, if anything, about the current financial crisis is different from circumstances that led to economic adjustments in the past? Contrary to popular belief, it was uncontrolled agricultural expansion in the U.S. that led to the meltdown of 1929 and the Great Depression. Overproduction was encouraged by government loans and taken up by world markets during World War I. Then after the war, when loans were withdrawn, the market fell, farmers tried to produce more to remain solvent, and prices fell further. Government gave loans to farmers to take land out of production, which failed to solve the problem because it did not take into account urbanization, unemployment, and the fact that U.S. problems were now set in a global context. Only when World War II created shortages again did the economy pull out of recession. What happened eventually to change the boom and bust cycle of U.S. agriculture? Government became the referee of the marketplace, passing 5 major pieces of farm legislation and banning hoarding. Today, U.S. agriculture, pre-credit crunch, is primarily successful because of reduced global food supplies, the lower value of the dollar, and higher incomes in developing countries. Everything is interconnected. How does this relate to Wikinomics and what makes a wiki company? It's about connectivity. The market transparency of the Internet has modified the traditional supply chain. Buyers became aware of supply prices direct from the manufacturer, and they started bypassing wholesalers and retailers. At the beginning of the Internet revolution, electronic commerce brought the idea of getting rid of the middlemen to many producers as a way of cutting costs or increasing profits. Most found it was not so easy. Small producers did not consider that using the Internet to sole source or sell their products from their own site is like having only one store in a city selling a particular brand. Now thousands of web middlemen are spending money to draw customers to their websites. So if a small producer shuns the middleman, he gets less shelf space on the web, and therefore decreases the probability of getting online sales. This is the reintroduction of the middleman into the supply chain, but with a difference. The web has evolved through 3 distinct approaches, which Tim O'Reilly calls levels 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 applications run elsewhere and call into the platform via Web Services API to draw on data and services. Level 2 applications run elsewhere, but you are not just drawing on services, you are plugging something in. A Level 3 platform or runtime environment contains applications that run inside the platform itself. Let's concentrate on the Level 3 platform, which is sometimes known as Web 2 or the cloud. The effectiveness of the Level 3 platform is derived from the fact that everything sits inside the cloud. It feeds on interhuman connections, customizing the applications, so the more people that make use of it, the stronger it gets. Mark Andreessen, founder of Netscape and creator of Ning, believes that in the long run, all large-scale Internet companies will provide Level 3 platforms. If they don't, they won't be able to compete because users will demand the ability to easily customize and program for themselves. Kevin Kelly of Wired magazine calls the Internet one machine, and he says we are working towards that machine housing all available knowledge in the next 5,000 days. Though many people have never heard of Second Life, virtualization will increasingly invade our business lives. You can already make real money on Second Life. Today, young people are just as likely to get business training and experience from being involved in a virtual community as from formal employment. Game playing and interaction in commons, social media, and Internet communities are sharing and learning activities. Logic argues that since technological innovations increase efficiency, consumption should fall, but instead it rises. If a recession causes us to tighten our belts, then revenues for companies decline, decreasing economic growth, resulting in downsizing and unemployment. The boom and bust cycle happens because it is based on the belief in a long-term trend for economic growth and incorporates the assumption that sustainable growth can be achieved. As you can see, we are just repeating the paradox of plenty. Technology enables more efficiency, production increases, then outstrips demand, leading to a cost-price squeeze. It is the injection of human nature that makes our economic assertions complex and unpredictable. How do people make their decisions? Humans rarely, if ever, have all the information they need to make a decision. We rely on instinct and emotion, often acting against our own self-interest. What happens when we overlay economics with the demography of the human population as a whole? The governance models we have adopted throughout history reflect the push-pull between individual freedom and the security of the group. Society's progression has gone from independent bands to autocratic states to democracies, a marriage between freedom and security. Our business models reflect the same governance structures. Our progress has been underpinned by the continuing decline in the cost and speed of communication founded on technological advances. In a wiki, we move back to the autonomy of the individual, but within the community of the web. Platforms take over the coordination role provided by the previous business structure. But what we are witnessing now is a totally unregulated use of the web. Sovereign laws are not keeping up with this global freedom of communication. All of these governance models still exist somewhere in the world. While the Western world is moving towards closing the gap between business and household, developing nations are experiencing the reverse, moving from a united business and household model to a free market model, their economies emancipated from old communal and familial constraints. Does it mean that these countries embracing the free market will be the next powerhouses of the global economy? Not necessarily. There is huge economic migration going on, millions of migrants and refugees. The globalized elite are also adopting a permanently transient pattern of life. Political, cultural, and social equilibrium is being upset in every country. In other words, people migrate and then they go back or they go somewhere else. There are no unpopulated frontiers in which to settle. With such transience, is the web's influence changing the marketplace to the extent that we are witnessing a transition to a new business, perhaps even societal model? A single highly creative web designer working from home can design a site that looks 10 times better than a high-cost company site. It's not the size of the budget, it's the ability of the designer. Markets now have an infinite volume of possible permutations, and the web is becoming a great equalizer for small businesses. With each recession and downsizing, more people are forced to give up the security of permanent employment and are finding an unexpected freedom and work-life balance in wiki working. The changes are not restricted to Western economies. Examples are cropping up across all walks of life and in all geographies. The sweatshop economies are being impacted by microfinance agreements only because the individual producing the product can sell it at a better price through the internet. Less technologically advanced communities can reach out via the internet to find solutions to their local problems that they would not otherwise have had access to. And otherwise non-financially viable small holdings, such as small-scale organic farming, are able to market and sell direct to their customers. Where are we heading? International corporations will grow larger, but there will be fewer of them. As the power of the internet deconstructs the command and control model, we are more likely to see piecemeal growth generated by individuals and smaller units to create global patterns of business. The web is bringing with it an openness in knowledge sharing, self-empowerment, and a transparency in the way that we do business. Cyberspace is trans-territorial and exists outside the jurisdiction of national law. We need a structure beyond the nation-state that regulates it globally. Although the internet is perhaps the single most important factor in 21st century globalization, we must be careful not to forget the influence of human choice and behavior. The concept of Wikinomics and the freedom to work as individuals is here now, but not everyone wants more autonomy, and not everyone who wants it can handle it well. Kevin Kelly's vision of the web as one computer containing all human knowledge is dependent on the human nodes that supply that information. Even the Roman Empire, an earlier wave of globalization, was comprised of a fragile network of cities whose economy fell apart when the civilized connections disappeared.